Welcome back, everyone. Star Wars collectible card game graded fans and anybody just curious about these slabs. We are back with Darth Grader, Mark, the man himself.
We will be discussing all things with Death Star 2, Star Wars CCG Death Star 2. This is a great new topic. We are picking up from where we left off, and this is going to be awesome.
Since these have just grown since population-wise, since we've last spoken, and it's been a little while, I guess at least a month, right? And we're going to dive into all the cards that are getting graded through here, what we've seen come through, and just our general thoughts
and impressions, anything going on in the industry
are coming through the pipeline. So, Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on as always, Kyle. And yeah, this is a exciting episode today for sure with two of the big hitters in Star Wars CCG.
Let's dive right into this. So Death Star 2, you open this up. We see 213 cards graded, one of them autographed, right? What were your impressions when you opened this and saw these numbers? Just first glance.
Yeah, I mean, for sure with Death Star 2, a set that's famous for back in the day being the first set to have ultra rares. At least I guess it's the only set that's non-reflection set with ultra rares. So I guess it's not too surprising that when you then scroll through the population report, you have your Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight and your Emperor Palpatine, the light side and the dark side ultra rares, with mid double digits, around 40 something graded in each one of them. Although only 110 for each one, so kudos to the owners of those out there. That struck me as one thing. Also, it's a very deep set, got a ton of different starships, main character versions, like even outside of ultra rares. You got your Lord Vader, you got your Millennium Falcon as Gold Squadron 1, you got a Lando, you got the Death Star 2 location, all sorts of other characters too, like Admiral Akbar. Lots of Star Destroyers. Yeah, and Admiral's orders, objectives. It's just a very deep set all around. So not too surprised that we got quite a few cards from here getting some love.
You mentioned earlier, we see for the first time like cards kind of coming like completely with the Admiral's orders. There's no secret that this is a super popular set. For players and collectors, the value's held it well. It's been holding well, booster wise and box wise, and sought after set. And also where we start to see, some of the pain with the singles prices for those who are trying to complete a set. They start to get a little expensive, like singles are going 15, 20, 25, even $30 for not even the hardest hitting cards in the set. And sometimes they're harder to find, and when it comes to great condition cards for these, I think this will be a trickier set. I mean, there's plenty of people that have master sets of these and plenty of good cards, but I don't have a lot of extra Death Star 2 stuff. I mean, there's certainly the Death Star 2 star decks, right? I have some. And some of these rares are sought after players and collectors alike. So because of that, there's more demand for the stuff. And I know we had a discussion earlier. If you haven't caught it, the Star Wars collector John Guzik mentioned he was going to go for this registry set. So that was really interesting. So somebody compete with JD for that. I don't think I will be competing in this category. I don't think I have enough depth or volume to be able to compete in that unless I started buying all the singles. But this will be a very interesting set to follow to see who jumps in.
Yeah, and then a couple of other notes on Death Star 2 is the one, like you mentioned, you got the starter decks. They've got not only the exclusive rares, which are, I believe, Admiral Akbar and Piet for the light side and the dark side, but then also I wonder if eventually because I believe they have some of the Endor cards with the different copyright date on them. If at some point they'll distinguish between like the 99 General Solo and the 2000 General Solo, if that'll ever become a thing. We'll see. PSA is learning, so maybe at some point they'll start distinguishing those sorts of things. But that could also add depth too.
Yeah, because I have distinguished that, like, the hardcore collectors do. They just kind of associate it with the set.
Right.
So I'm not sure how important that'll be. Maybe eventually they'll get to that, but
maybe that's probably more of an eventual thing, right? They're still learning the ropes a little bit, so we'll give them time.
I feel like they've definitely made mistakes, when it comes to unlimited, limited, ultra rare, very rare, super rare, all that. But they're definitely learning. I mean, it is what it is. They've mixed up some sets, but as time will go on, we'll see how that goes.
It's also important to note that they do send out, like, here's what we're going to label it. Do you approve it? Like, you actually do want to go through that. Like, even if it's a lot, because it is kind of, you're like, yeah, you already submit this, but sometimes they change stuff from what you submitted it as. So you just kind of got to be extra cautious of that and just like, no, that's not right, and get it fixed. So try not to be lazy in that part if you can.
That's right. You got to do your part. How did this one get here?
Let's look at some of the key individual cards in this set. I mean, just starting, I think it's interesting. Gold Squadron 1, Red Squadron Run. I mean, there's only 3 of each of those graded. I mean, that's not many. I mean, Gold Squadron 1 is William Falcon. I guess it's not the heavy hitter from Premier, just because I guess it's not the first one. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like many. No 10s, 2 9s, 1 8. I mean, I've seen some other ones that are not PSA. And of course, there's plenty more of the foils. We'll have to look at that on the reflection side too.
Yeah, it is interesting. I'm a little surprised that the Gold Squadron 1 is so low because, yeah, it is the Millennium Falcon altar. And one of the things that's actually jumping out at me upon looking at this just as a whole is that there's only 6 10s that have been graded out of everything so far. I guess that can make sense because if you look at the cards, they've got this interesting, almost fibrous texture to them that I don't think I've seen in any other sets. And then also you got sometimes these odd corners in particular. Yeah, like you'll get this sloped corner that I've seen on Luke Skywalker Jedi Knights. I think there was a post a few months ago in the Star Wars CCG group asking about that. And, it's just like, yeah, actually that's probably means it's not a counterfeit card. It's actually just the way those were cut. So that's particularly striking, right? Just how low that is. Yeah.
At this point, they were like, "Oh, we need to fix our quality control. Let's try and tweak this a little bit." Not quite there, but getting there.
Yeah.
But yeah, even like flagship, like no 10s, 2 9s, 3 8s, 5 7s. Yikes, that's kind of rough. Even General Calrissian, only 1 has been graded. 1. It's an 8. Like that's surprising. That's surprising to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Independence 8. Moff Gerard, only 1 has been graded. And it's a 9. Star Wars, like Judicator, only been graded, and it's a 6. Of course, we can't ignore Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight. Looks like there's only 1 10 out of PSA with 16 9s, 17 8s. That's pretty nuts. I mean, I almost wonder if some of those 9s people should crack and resubmit in the hopes of getting a 10. We've seen videos of people doing that recently. Maybe that's a PSA thing, but why do you think that is?
Sorry, that is so difficult to get a 10?
Yeah,
I think
that's pretty lopsided, no?
Right, yeah, compared to some of the other sets, I mean, I think it's been a little while, but this even in some ways looks difficult compared to even, say, Premiere, which, we always dog on as having terrible print quality, but certainly judging by the numbers here, especially, when people are submitting cards that are not like your main character cards, like I'd assume, they're being a little bit more picky. Like if, with a "you must confront Lord Vader," I'd assume they're being pretty picky when they're examining it, or Visage, like these non-main character cards, but yet somehow the scores don't seem to be reflecting that. Yeah, I assume it's just due to the odd print quality characteristics of the Death Star 2. For whatever reason, the cards have a very unique feel to them. It's kind of fibrous, and just the cutting too. There's a lot of odd cutting patterns on the corners. I mean, that's the case in a lot of the Decipher sets, but I've noticed it a lot in Death Star 2 with like those sloped corners. Like people get those Luke Skywalker Jedi Knights and they think, oh, is this counterfeit or something? It's like, no, actually, you got that. It's more likely it's a real thing because that was just a thing in this set. So yeah, it looks like it's
And is that
sledding.
different? Is that different with the starter deck and the boosters? Scenario?
That's a good question.
Same.
I mean, I probably it's probably different, but I don't really know because again, the starters, like most people, I mean, you know exactly what's in them because they're fixed cards. So most people are going to be like, maybe someday, like I guess if you want to like get like Akbar or Piet, you'll go for the starter decks, or if you want to use them to play with. Although it's probably a lot cheaper just to buy a used one or the ones that people put the cards together themselves.
Yeah, because I mean, Piet, we have 3-8 and 1-6. I mean, only 4 submitted.
Huh.
It's not a lot. And
yeah, and then looks like 3
Akbar is submitted, and then 3-8s. I mean, that's not really good.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they were just having a rough spot printing at the moment.
Yeah, and Lord Vader, 110, 23 submitted. I mean, there's 9 9s and 8s. So again, they seem pretty resistant on 10, but it seems very attainable to get 9. So maybe we're leaning towards 9s unless people are getting lucky. Thunder Flare, that's a cool card too. 1-9 there. Uncower Mari Star Cruiser. There's 110 out of 1 graded. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Death Star 2, 110 there. General Solo, only 1-8. So maybe the starter deck ones have not been doing so hot. But then again, there's not a big sample to go through. So
I don't know whether it's good or just accidental, but they have the General Solo in the Death Star 2 category. So I wonder if someone was doing a good job of annotating it to them that this was from the starter deck and not the Endor deck, despite the fact that it has an Endor symbol on it.
Yeah,
it's random because I saw Erica on here.
Yeah,
I saw Erica made an appearance in here, and that was one of the misclassifications probably since she's a Ref 2 premium. Sometimes they'll put like the reflections like foil versions into their set equivalent, but I don't see any foils in here actually, so I guess that didn't happen in the set. Just some random notes.
Yeah, maybe eventually that'll be classified, but for now, it is what it is. Do you think a lot of these single submissions are from the same person, or are these all scattered, do you think?
For this set, I feel like it. You don't think JP sent them in? Is that what you said?
I don't think he's that far up yet, right?
Yeah, I don't think this is JP from the Star Wars graded group. I don't think that this is his doing. I would suspect, maybe, of course, probably some of these are individual submissions, like especially the main characters. But for all these random cards, I say random, but like non-main character, like Admiral Order, or there's like the typical cards. Maybe someone did like a box break and submitted the rares or something like that. Or maybe someone was just trying their hand. Maybe they're going for the set, something like that. But I suspect it's probably a few key players, maybe that are responsible for the majority of it at this point in time, but that's just my suspicion. I don't really have data to back that up.
Do you have a bunch of Death Star 2 slabs yourself, or no?
Yeah, actually, you mentioned some of these. Like I was actually the person that graded like the Death Star 2 10. I sold that to someone. I think that's kind of making its way around the world now. I submitted a few of Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight, a few of the other main character cards. I've definitely submitted a few flagship executors. I submitted at least a couple of those Gold Squadron ones, so I think at least a couple of those are from me. Just because I think it's a set that for many reasons, like players and collectors alike, it's a very iconic set with a lot of it's like the culmination of the original trilogy. There's just a lot there to love. So in terms of just sets like that, I'm willing to submit some of the not as like most popular rares. It's probably up there in terms of sets that I feel like, yeah, this would get a lot of love out there. There's going to be a lot of people that want these cards.
Yeah, I have to agree, Mark. Anyways, thank you so much for your thoughts. I look forward to talking more on our next chat. We will do Reflections foils. So stay tuned. Thanks for checking this out.